Hi, my name is Sebastian DeJesus.
My name is AnnMarie Muñecas.
And my name is Isabella Perez.
We're from Ferguson FCCLA, and we are competing in Level 3 of the Entrepreneurship competition with our project, Decades Diner. On this slide, you will find our table of contents. Next, divided into 2 slides, is our planning process summary sheet. Finally, we have our evidence of online submission. Now to describe to you what exactly is the Decades Diner. So our restaurant, as we mentioned, is called Decades Diner, and our mission is to provide a fun and vibrant experience for those who are looking for a quick bite, but also a creative and unique environment that is unlike any other. So at the Decades Diner, we serve American food that ranges from a hot dog to a savory, slow-cooked burger. Now, what makes us so special and so different from other diners is the energy and the actual atmosphere that we have within our establishment. In resurrecting these retro themes and aesthetics, what we're also doing is we're taking the liveliness from that time period and bringing it and implementing it to our restaurant. So it's going to be very energetic and vibrant. And the reason why we do this is because we hope that we could then uplift spirits once the coronavirus is past us and that we are finally able to live lives normally again. So we feel that this would be a great way to just keep everyone excited and have something to look forward to that's just really, really exciting and interesting and something that's unlike any other. So our demographics, our target market is specifically teenagers. And despite the fact that we are family friendly and we're going to be open to all, the reason why we specify that we want to target adolescents is because we have a social media campaign. We also have a mobile app that we feel they'll know how to better use. And we see that nowadays adolescents are very attracted to the older aesthetics and they find them very pleasing, especially because they haven't experienced them. So we feel that they would be the ones that we should specifically target because we feel like we could get the most publicity and potentially the most income from. Now, before we proceeded with the project, we wanted to make sure that this was feasible. So what my partners and I did was we went to 4 classes at Ferguson and we interviewed the culinary students, about 150 of them, to see if they would potentially be interested in eating at the Decades Diner if it were a thing. And based on the answers that we got back, 78% of them said yes. So once we realized that this was feasible and something that would be successful, my partners and I decided to continue with the project and really develop this concept into what it's now become.
This is a floor plan of our facility. Our facility will be located in Miami, and this is specifically the Kendall Village Center. This location is a popular spot for teenagers, and there will be a shopping center and a local theater nearby. Our space will be an area of 2,350 feet, and these are some of the utilities that you will be able to find at the restaurant. For our emergency plan, my partner, AnnMarie, and I are the emergency contacts that will be called in case that an emergency were to happen. You can find our work, cell, and email number so that they can be able to contact us. For our insurance, we do plan on having an insurance for natural disasters. We also have the insurance provider telephone number there at the top. And for fire safety, we do plan on having fire extinguishers located throughout the restaurant just in case an emergency like a fire were to happen. For reducing any potential damage, we do plan on installing latches on the drawers and the cabinets in order to keep them from flying open and any of their contents falling out. This could reduce any potential damage to the restaurant as well as any injury to anyone else. We also plan on having an evacuation plan in order for customers to know where to go if an evacuation were to happen. These are some of the emergency supplies that you can find at our restaurant, and like extra batteries, flashlights, first aid kit, etc. And for employee support, these are some of the 3 websites that we would instruct our employees so that they can learn more about how to protect themselves, their families, and even the customers in case of any emergency that were to happen.
On these next 2 slides, you will see that we have our maintenance plan. And it's really important that we lay this out for you because this is how we plan to keep our restaurant in proper condition and just maintain it to the best of our abilities. So on these first 2 for the facility and equipment, you will see that a lot of what we emphasize here is just dealing with cleaning and sanitation. It's really important that we clean our facility. Specifically now relating to the pandemic, we need to make sure that our restaurant is clean at all times and that we don't help the spread of either a regular illness or potentially then a foodborne illness, which that would tie back then to the equipment. So we want to make sure that we prevent any cross-contamination, and then just for safety measures, we want to make sure that the restaurant is as clean as possible to avoid any negative situations. And that is also why we're going to be enforcing masks in our restaurant at all times until further notice. As for the refrigerator and freezer, once again, it relates back to cleaning and sanitizing it, and then also keeping it at a steady temperature in case of an emergency. So as he says, discussed in the emergency plan, we do live in Florida and hurricanes do come sometime. And in the case that we lose power from a big storm like this, for example, we don't want our food to fall within the temperature danger zone for too long, because that would then require us to throw it away. So that's why we have then a battery operated generator to avoid pollution, and then to back up our fridge in the case of an emergency. So then also for our repairs, we're going to contact Axon Services, and they're going to be the ones that we really go to for any type of assistance that we need with our establishment. So some of the things that we anticipate potentially needing repairs would be our plumbing, ventilation, if there's a broken glass or hardware on our establishment, and then potentially doors, refrigeration, and air conditioning. Now for supplies and equipment. So as you will see, we have listed for you the appliances and the equipment that we plan on purchasing while we're creating this establishment. All of these things are necessities, so we need to have this to create our restaurant. And US Foods will be supplying us with not only our ingredients, but these supplies and appliances. And the only thing that we won't be getting from them is the vegan patty that we serve in our Impossible Burger. That will be coming directly from Impossible Foods. Once again, we have some more supplies that we're going to need to purchase before creating our restaurant. And as you can see, the total is about $32,000. On this slide, you will find our organizational chart. And what this chart does is it helps you visualize the internal structure of our restaurant so that you are able to understand the hierarchy of our staff, and so you can see for yourself who responds to who in different situations. So now we have different job titles and tasks laid out here. So me, Isabella, and Sebastian would be the owners of the restaurant, and we would be in charge of overseeing the growth of our business and making sure that the operation is running smoothly. Then we have a back of the house manager, who is also our executive chef, and he's going to be the one really managing the back of the house and looking over the kitchen. And then we also have the front of the house manager, who is going to be looking over the dining area where we have our customers coming in. Then in the back of the house, we have working on the food, the sous chef and the line cook. And we also have a dishwasher who will be specifically in charge of just washing our dishes and making sure everything is clean. As for the front of the house, we will have a cashier and a server who will be handling, working with our customers, and will be taking their payments and then also bringing them their food. And then we have a busser who will be cleaning our tables before and after customers leave. As for projected growth, what we plan to do over time is potentially become a chain restaurant. Despite the fact that we're starting off with one, we have really big goals for our restaurant, and we believe that we can be really successful. So after a minimum of 5 restaurants have proved effective, we then want to consider potentially franchising or trying to branch out on our own and just becoming a nationally recognized chain. And on this slide, you will see for personnel management, what an application would look like if someone was interested in applying for a job at the Decades Diner. Now to describe the hiring processes to you all. So how it would work is that if we were looking for employees at the time and someone did want to work at the Decades Diner, they would pick up an application at our restaurant and then turn it into the front of the house manager. Now, once we've seen that they meet all the requirements for the position that they applied for, we then call them in for an interview. Now, some positions won't require as much of individuals. For example, if you want to be a server, the only thing we really look for beyond the interview skills and the resume is that you meet the age requirement of being 18 or older. However, if you want to work as a cook or as a chef, then we're going to look to see if you have some basic experience and if you have certifications such as ServSafe. Then we have the wages of the employees laid out for you. They are all part-time employees, and that's how much they make per hour. And then one of the benefits of being an employee at the Decades Diner is that you could potentially get a raise based on your merit. And we do this so that we can reward our workers for their work ethic and their dedication, as well as to improve the retention rate of our workers and to keep people working at the Decades Diner and staying a part of our establishment and business. So once again, you see we describe the positions that we have within our establishment. And then what's important is that we will be doing bi-weekly evaluations of all our staff members based on from their respective supervisors. So no matter if you are a busser or an executive chef, you will be getting reviewed by your respective supervisor every 2 weeks to make sure that you are on task and you are completing your job. Now, 3 of the biggest policies that we are going to enforce within our restaurant will be attendance, dress code, and no substance use. Attendance, it is expected that our employees come to work every day, and the only way that they can call out of a shift late is if they have an emergency. And if you want to switch shifts, then you have to have it approved by your respective manager. Dress code, the employees at a restaurant will be wearing a uniform, and that will be deducted partly from their first paycheck. And then we have the standard black pants and non-slip shoes and hair tied back within the establishment. And then finally, we do not tolerate the use of any tobacco, alcohol, or drugs within the establishment.
Now, funding for business or funding sources for the business. On the right, we see that we included any preliminary fees, which include necessary equipment, installation fees, cash registers, and legal and licensing fees. All of that added together is $36,000, and that's what it costs to actually start up the investment and get the establishment running. Now, how we're gonna get that money and how we're gonna find the funding for that money is gonna be from loans, from anything that we can't receive or that we can't get from our own personal savings or investors or investments. So loans is basically our backup plan. Our primary is going to be from our personal savings. We should be able to afford $15,500 from the bootstrapping method. Now, the bootstrapping method is where all the owners or all the starters, they come together and they get all of their personal savings and they put it all into the business. Now, this is extremely risky because we don't know if the establishment is going to be open after a year. We don't know if we're going to be in a deficit or if we're even going to have to close in less than a year. But since we have so much confidence in Decades Diner, and we really do believe that we're going to succeed after 1 year, or even just after being open however long, then we believe that this is the best method for us and it's really going to take us the furthest, even though it's really risky. Now on the left, we see if we have an angel investor. So in case of an angel investor, which is a very, very large investment, and where we wouldn't have to put our own personal savings into the establishment or into the startup of the establishment, we would put our own personal savings into the emergency fund, which I will expand on later. Now, if we do have an investor and they give, let's say, $10,000, after 1 year of being open, they should expect to receive a return of a 541% increase in that $10,000. So in 1 year, if they were to give us $10,000, that $10,000 should be able to output about $64,000, which is insane after only 1 year being open, a 541% increase on that investment. Now, we do talk about expansion and franchising or making new establishments in the area or out of the area. And the funding for that expansion is going to come from that emergency fund that I talked about in the previous slide. So that emergency fund, 30% is going to be 30, or in the first year, it's not going to be 30% because we're not going to have a profit yet. But in every year after that first year, we're going to take 30% of our profit and we're going to put it into the emergency fund for the next year. So let's say, for example, in the first year, we have a $10,000 for the emergency fund. So $10,000 is 30% of the profit after that first year. We'd put that $10,000 into the emergency fund for the next year. And if we don't use that $10,000 in the next year, we're going to replenish it with the profit from that year, with 30% of the profit from that year. And we're going to take that $10,000 and we're going to put it into expansion funding. So if we don't use the emergency fund every year, we're just going to be taking that money every year, that 30%, we're going to be putting it together, compiling it together, and to which the point that we can actually expand and make another establishment in the area, out of the area, or at one point even franchise. Now we see here the fee structure, which is what it costs us per food type, or an average per food type. Now for appetizers, we see $2.25. Entrees $3, sides $1, and beverages 50 cents. Like I said, that's an average cost. That's it does fluctuate, but this is an average. It's going to give us the best gauge of how much we're going to be spending per food type. Now for the budget, we see that we have the 1065 form, or the U.S. Return of Partnership Income form, and this is a tax form that is necessary for business partners or startup business partners to actually report their income and report the taxes to the IRS. Now for the budget, let me just start by saying that all of the numbers that we calculated from on this slide is on the basis or on the estimate that we do receive 120 guests every day, spending $20 on average. Now, of course, that fluctuates. So we might not have 120 guests per day. We might have 60 guests per day, but they might be spending a $40 average that day. It might be a great day that day. And that's going to give us the same for the 120 guests per day, spending $20 on average. So of course it fluctuates, but this is like, this is our best estimate of what we're going to be getting every single day. Now for the income, which is just a gross revenue, this is not subtracting anything. This is just coming straight from the money from our customers, is $876,000 in the first year. Now, all the expenditures, which includes marketing and food, employee wages, equipment payments, supplies payment, licensing, and variable expenses, is $490,000, a hefty fee. But we subtract that from our gross revenue, which is what we made. I'm not subtracting anything. Once we subtract it, we get $386,000 approximately, and that's our profit. That's ours, not including the tax. The tax is $58,000, and including the tax, our new profit is $328,000 approximately. Now that's our money. That we don't have any responsibility to or tax on that money. We don't. That's all of ours to keep, to delegate amongst the owners and from the business partners. Now, how I mentioned earlier, the emergency fund, the 30%, that's going to be coming from that profit. So this is our own personal choice. It's not necessary, but we really think that this is the best method for us. So using that 30% profit just from that first year, which is $98,000, we're going to gain a new net profit of $230,000. Now this $230,000 is 100% ours to keep, and we're not doing anything with that money. We're delegating it amongst the owners and the business partners, and that's just for us. Now, a monthly statement, this is how we calculated how many customers or how many units we would need to actually break even every month. So the monthly expenses, when added up all together, is about $41,000, $40,855 exactly. And that's how much it costs us per month to keep the business running and to actually have it thrive. Now, if we do go based off of the assumption of the $20 purchase per person that comes in, after 1 month, we should expect at least 2,043 people or units to come in so that we break even. That means we're not making any profit or we're not going into any deficit. That just means we spent that much money and this many people came in and we didn't make anything. We can still keep the business open, but we're not making any profit whatsoever.
Now, for laws, regulations, and codes, these are put in place in order to keep our employees and our customers safe. Now, we do this by making sure that the restaurant is safe and sanitary. Now, for a Florida statute, it states that employees cannot smoke inside the facility. Decades Diner, however, does let employees smoke. The only way that they can do this is if they smoke on their break and they have to be outdoors. Now, the second statute states that all workers have to meet minimum training requirements in order to be able to work in this food industry. So Decades Diner will also provide training to those employees who do not have all the training, but we do encourage them to come in with at least ServSafe certification as well as NAVTRAC certification. Now, as Decades Diner provides this training, it helps those employees be more familiarized with the food industry that we work in. Now, for our marketing program, we use both the app, Instagram, and Twitter. This helps us reach a variety of different people, and it helps us be able to promote our restaurant through both the apps. Now, another way that we do promote our restaurant through the app is that every time they follow our social media as well as make a post about Decades Diner, they will get a free side on their first visit. Now, the goal of this entire thing is to be able to keep our customers returning to Decades Diner as well as them being able to recommend it to family and friends. Another benefit is that social media is completely 100% free. Now, these are the two pictures of our social medias. On the right, you see that you have Instagram, as well as on the left, you have Twitter. Now, another way that we promote our business is by having an app. So by having this app, it actually rewards customers when they get that app and they come into our restaurant. So every time they come in and they order, they can scan the receipt that they get, and they can either get 75 points, gets you 25%, or you can even get a free milkshake. So every time you scan your receipt, it fills up that little milkshake until you get to the top. Once you get to the top, you get your reward. And like that, it keeps customers interested and it keeps them wanting to come to our restaurant, as well as promote it to any family or friends.
On these slides, you will find our answers to the virtual questions. We thank you for watching our presentation, and we hope that you've enjoyed learning about the Decades Diner.